Public sector unions are today expected to announce their next move as there's still no agreement with government on wage increases. In fact, talks have been dragging on for months now, with government saying an industrial action will cripple the economy. So is there anything that can be done at this stage to help these two parties reach some kind of deal? Let's make sense of it for you now. Bring in Labour lawyer Michael Bagraim, who joins us via our video link this morning. Michael, I hope I'm pronouncing your surname correctly. Thanks very much indeed for speaking to us on the AM report. So, as I've mentioned there, government has also gone on to say that they don't believe that an industrial action is necessary. In fact, they're saying that it's premature. Of course, they'll say that given their position in this impasse. But I wonder to what extent you agree with them.
Well, I do agree that it's not necessary. I don't agree in saying it's too soon. They've been talking for months, as you said, and in fact there's no trust between the unions and the umbrella bodies, that's COSATU, FEDUSA and SAPTU. All three of them don't trust government anyway, because you will recall about 4 years ago, they entered into an agreement and government reneged in the third year by claiming that there was some technical faults. They really duped the unions. They cheated the unions out of that third year increase. And in fact, so it's not too soon, but in fact now we can't afford to have a strike. Over and above the fact that government can't afford to give more than the 3% that they're offering, the unions don't trust them. They don't believe that. You will recall about a month ago that they had the strikes at the harbours, and there was a 3%, 6.5% divide between government and the unions. And after the unions had really damaged the export industry, then government caved in and gave 6.5%. So what message is that giving to the unions? That's underlining the distrust between the parties. There is something that can be done. We do have a Labour Relations Act. It's a very functional Labour Relations Act. This was an act that was put into place by President Mandela at the time to try and create some sort of labour peace in South Africa. Now we desperately need it. We need labour peace. And for some reason or other, our very sleepy Minister of Employment and Labour doesn't get off his backside. We've got Section 150 of that Labour Relations Act. Yes, they have been talking to the CCMA, that's the Commission for Conciliation, Mediation and Arbitration. But now what we need to do is we need to invoke Section 150, where people can actually have compulsory arbitration. And the people would agree. At the end of the day, who suffers? Everyone suffers. The employees suffer because they won't get any payment to go on their strike. They just won't receive money. There's no union funds to give them. The unions themselves suffer because people are starting to fraction and pull out, and some won't strike, some will strike, so the unions will suffer. Government suffers because of the economy is going to take a real wreck. And of course the people. South Africa itself suffers because we won't get the civil servants working. There are some people saying that civil servants don't work anyway, but that's not true. What's happening now is that there's the standoff. Both parties are facing each other with guns loaded. And we can't afford that. We desperately need that sort of arbitration to come forward.
I hear you about that. And, it's expected that in any kind of negotiation, there's going to be some kind of tug of war. There's going to be some kind of tussle for quite some time. But in the midst of that, at the very least, you hope that the trust isn't broken, because compromises need to take place on both ends. And part of conceding to a compromise is because you trust that the person sitting on the other side of the table will do good on whatever commitment they're making. If unions don't trust government, how doomed are we really?
Well, we're not really, because we have that mechanism. That trust is broken, I'm sorry to tell you. We are at high chaparral. We are pointing guns at each other. The only way we're going to do that is to get a third party that is trusted by both sides to come in and to make decisions. And once we've got those decisions and the parties abide by the decisions, we can start building that trust again. Unfortunately, the government that we have is destructive. They have actually really sent a message out to the workers of South Africa saying, we don't care. I mean, look at this last episode where they just implemented unilaterally the 3%. That's a real slap in the face. right now, where we are facing each other down, what's happened? They then just go ahead and do whatever they feel like doing. I think our minister is smoking something. I'm not sure what he's trying to do. We need to have a trusted third party comes in, says, come on guys, you two naughty children, I'm going to put you together, I'm going to make a recommendation after arbitration, and you must both abide by that recommendation. You and I are going to suffer because country is falling apart because they're fighting with each other. And that's not something South Africa needs right now. And even in the future, we're going to have the same problem every year. And we need to start structuring it properly. This arbitration is going to help us put things together and then start slowly building that trust. And one day, who knows, there might be a different minister, a different government, and trust might be restored to the parties. It has to be. You and I live here.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think many of us want to stay here for a long time. I'm so glad you spoke about, us possibly finding ourselves here in the near future, because part of what I was going to ask you is whether you feel we are learning lessons about how to actually handle these negotiations. With no sense of irony at all, in this country we speak about strike season, as if we anticipate that something like that would happen, that the disagreement will get to a point where workers essentially will go on strike. But surely there's better ways of doing things.
Absolutely. And we have the tools. It's not like we don't have the tools. We have the tools, we have the people, we have the institution. I have faith in the CCMA coming in as an institution. There's Advocate Cameron Moriani, who could put together his best team and say, let's sort this out. We have a 75% settlement rate in this country. Effectively, we do have labor peace. Effectively. And every now and again, we have these mass strikes that constitute strike season. And as South Africans, we sit back and watch the warring parties. Well, we must not take it anymore. We must shout out as citizens and say, no, you have the tools, you have the institution, and we have the wherewithal. South Africans are not bad people. We don't need to fight with each other. We want to give the best to the employees, and the government can only afford a certain amount, and it takes a third party to come in and say, this is what can be afforded without destruction, and this is what, unfortunately, you're going to have to take. And I think the unions will throw their lot in with that. They have faith in the CCMA. They use it every day. It's government now that somehow seems to be standing back and saying, we don't care. We're going to implement the 3%, and we don't care what you guys say. That's the slap in the face. And if I was in the union movement, I'd say, well, I don't trust you anyway, and now you come and hit me again. What is going on here? I'm now going to go out and strike. So you can understand where they're coming from, and we can sympathize.
Absolutely. Once bitten, twice shy, they say. Michael Bagraim, thanks very much indeed for speaking to us. Really do appreciate your insights on the AM report this morning. Michael is a labor lawyer, live to us there from Cape Town.